Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Very happy to be here once again with you. Are you ready to continue our journey through the book club discussion of Wake Up and Be Happy with me? Today, our chapter is chapter 20. So we're approach today is the second third of the book with 10 more chapters for us before we finalize it. So anyways, this is for all of you that maybe this is the first time you join us. Wake Up and Be Happy is the eighth book from the psychological series by spiritual author Joanna de Angelis. Our organization, Solitude Center for Spiritual Living, has selected this book to kick off our first book club in 2022. And we meet weekly on Sundays to go over a single chapter of the book. Roughly translated, we're talking about 3 small pages. Easy peasy for us to do it on a weekly basis, right? As a reminder as well, the psychological series has a goal to provoke a reflection about ourselves. It is about our problems, our conflicts, our challenges, and all the nuances, the complexities that makes us, right? So as we go through the book club series, I wanted to just share with you that chapter after chapter, the messages contained are so powerful, so impactful. So here, from me to you, I hope you have an opportunity to read the book and let me know if you agree with my interpretation of the message. So let's go ahead and get started here. And today we are talking about the inner doctor. What is this about? Well, it's about health. It discusses what it takes to be healthy and, most importantly, how to channel our inner doctor. We'll go over 3 subtopics: prayer, God, and health. And let's go ahead and get started. Prayer. Yes. As we discuss health, we confront this very first question regarding prayer, right? Tell me, why does prayer possess, and it's on the screen here, undefinable resources that are channeled to those who utilize it, right? And Joanna puts that to us because she brings to us the answer, right? Because, and it's a very swift answer, because whenever we we do anything, whenever we pray, right? Whenever we are engaged through prayer, we have access to those resources, and we do that through our connection to God. If we pray with our heart, we are able to emit quite powerful vibrational waves, and through that connection, we receive all the answers to what we need. So we're going to keep here in this idea of prayer for just a few minutes, and let's talk a little bit about it, right? So prayer, connection with God, but let's break it down further. If we think about it, God, who is God? God is the creator. Not only he's the creator, he is continuously creating. The other side of this equation is that and we call it, we are gods with a small g, right? Lowercase g, but we, like God, our creator, we are co-creators of this process. And our co-creation will be directly related. The product of our co-creation is directly linked to our emotional state. right? What does it matter? This whole issues of creator and co-creator. Simply put, because as we are co-creating, depending our emotional state, we may indeed protect this body or damage it. Quite scary if you ask me. But when we think with that, when we think about this statement, right? The idea here is that we are responsible, absolutely responsible for everything that we project with our minds. And as such, we conclude two things. And this is, I'm not going to have time today, so I urge you to read about it in the Spirit's book, The Moral Laws, because here we are referencing law of justice, and with it, the law of cause and effect. So when we discuss this truly divine justice where everything has a cause and effect, we can say, well, health results from our karmic obligations, right? So real quickly, we live in this world of trials and expiations, and with the function of those trials and expiations is to be aware in this state that we're in of our expiations, our moments to go back and revisit all the effect of all the things that we have caused, all the pain that we have caused to ourselves or to others. So from that process, those karmic obligations, we have already studied here in an earlier chapter that we discussed the fact that the first step is really what it is: awareness of the pain that you have caused, the mistake you have made. With that, the second step would be, after we are aware, is reach to a state of being sorry, or in some cases, to be able to forgive, right? And finally, we get to a point where, okay, we are aware, we're sorry, so what, right? So let's start a process that we call reparation. We are going to address all the pain that we have inflicted and undo the pain. That's what many people call karmic obligation. Back to the being a god with a small g, right? As we co-create our reality, health is a consequence of the types of mental waves that we elaborate or cultivate with our thoughts. Yes, it is all intertwined. We co-create, but we have on one hand this sense of, as co-creators, we are going through some process of karmic obligation. On the other hand, our reality, our day-to-day reality, will impact those thoughts and the mental waves that's produced throughout our lives. Quite powerful statement, isn't it? Our health, indeed, is a consequence of our past lives, now our past lives, and past from this current life, plus our state of mind as we go through this current incarnation. And with that, I just say, let's never forget what Jesus told us. Jesus simply said, watch and pray, which simply means be vigilant, be aware of your thoughts, your behaviors, your words, all of it. Be very watchful and pray. And because we have to be quite aware of how our individual consciousness embeds itself in every single cell of our body. We are energy. We are pulsating energy with the rhythm of our own self awareness. And that can translate in two types of results. Number one, life, energy, health. On the other, not the opposite, but quite simply saying, quite simply, is unbalance, disharmony, illness. So, with this, Joanna just gives us this beautiful invitation to be love. And she says, let our essence be love. Let us and all that makes us what we are vibrate in the connection with God and all that is light, all that is good. And through prayer, through our thoughts, through our behaviors, our thought, our words, our actions, or in some cases, inaction, right? The decision not to do something, we can call in, right, our inner doctor to take care of us and to preserve our health. I love it. A healthy individual, Joanna tells us, which means you and me, a healthy individual that is that person that now can focus on the mission critical items that we ourselves set forth when we incarnated on this earth. Hope it makes sense to you. So let's talk a little bit about God. Yes, I've been talking about already about God, right? And our connection through prayer to God. But when we shift the discussion to God, we come like you know we confront, we go full confrontation with the notion that it's quite a misconception about that relationship. And so let's backtrack a little bit. I spoke earlier about divine justice. I talked about the law of cause and effect. I talked about karmic obligations, right? Uh, when we believe in reincarnation, when we embark as students of spirituality, a mistake that we have is the fact that we may believe that everything that is bad, and I put a parenthesis here, what do I mean? We may believe that is bad simply because it's not in our plans, right? It's important to know, but back, right? We may believe that everything that is bad is a punishment from God or a consequence of our past lives. Well, let's talk a little bit further because that idea, which I put it on the screen, that the concept of a punitive and cruel divinity is quite obsolete in light of the new understanding of love as this dynamic resource that is active throughout the universe. As children, and we are that, spiritual children, quite immature in this very, very long trajectory toward becoming that pure spirit, a spirit like Jesus. God does not take on the role of imposing cruel acts, against his creation, us. On the contrary, we have to believe, we have to understand that God is a God of love. God radiates what I call this vitalizing, restorative energy to us. So our own process of evolution takes place while we go through a life of wear and tear. Yes, we go through a life of self improvements, in a transformation, right? Where we are looking to becoming better than what we are. We also go through a life of learnings, of challenges, of victories, of defeats, of new beginnings, of sickness or with health. This is all, and many more, all part of life as we know it. So the tapestry that we weave through all of those above opportunities may reflect moments of what? Invigilance, irresponsibility, or even lack of love, lack of self love. Therefore, it is really important for us to understand that a disease may not be, so it's not always a part of a karmic process that has the goal to make reparations and heal old wounds. A disease may be just that, a disease as a response to our invigilance or our own irresponsibility. So let's wrap it up with the notion of health because that is what we're here to talk about. We all know that this body, our body, is a machine that is at the same time delicate and complex. What we're discussing here is that this body is also commended by our spirit, our immortal soul, right? That is commended with its connection of mind, body, thoughts, brain. What do I mean by that? What is Joanna talking about here? Well, our tendency is to look at life and all that is happening to us with a very pessimistic view, with perhaps resentment, or we may say uh, no love, a sense of dread, right? So that energy, when we look life through this lens, is released to our bodies and may generate a number of problems. Flip side, and that's what Joanna de Angelis does throughout the book, is point counterpoint, right? So flip side, what happens when we face a life with optimism, with a loving predisposition? Well, the opposite happens. We infuse our bodies with healing energy. And that healing energy is restorative and addresses whatever is causing issues with our physiological machinery. Does this make sense to you? I hope it does. So let's zoom into that. And as you can read on the page, and I thought it's very important for us to visualize that, right? The human body is a laboratory of enormous possibilities, always susceptible to breaking itself down or healing itself, depending on the vibrations emitted by our mind. So it's all connected, different words for the same concept. But let's zoom in the next 10 minutes or so. Let's zoom in how we know the what. Let's zoom into the how does that happen. Well, as I said before, the mind is the control center, the command center. And if you can think of that, I can see many, my mind's eye, I can see many different TV series that you see somebody behind all those computers in the command center, making sure sending messaging, ensures that all of the boots are in the ground, etc., etc. And that's what happens with your mind. The mind is in control, and as such, it sends all messages to our entire organization, aka our body, right? Fine. My mind controls my body by sending those messages. The problem is for us to understand that we don't live in isolation. It would be great to be in a, I don't know, let's say a monastery, praying all day and really controlling that mind body. That's not why we're here, right? We're here to interact. We are a gregarious people. We're social people. We need those interactions for many different reasons that we're not going to get into right now, but we are immersed into something that can be quite messy. And when we are in that immersive experience that is life, we are subject to external events. Those external events will trigger emotional response to them. The four basic emotions are sadness, fear, anger, joy. And it's quite interesting because there are many uh, sub, if you will, not sub, but different variations of those four basic energies. But let's say an event comes and it triggers an emotional response. Could be any one of those, but those emotions. Let's take fear. There is a, I don't know, there is a large boom. I wake up and I don't know what is going on. I just heard that boom. So immediately I have an emotional response that triggers this fear, right? And my emotional response of fear then releases a, adrenaline to our bloodstream. So physiologically and from a natural response perspective, I just say this is a protective measure. You need that adrenaline because now you have to confront with the decision of the F's, right? The freeze, stay put, fight, let's fight, or flight, right? Or run away as fast as you can with that adrenaline. But adrenaline will create, and I'm talking about overall, not just the fear, but any other response, we will create through adrenaline the sensations that should match the triggering agent, right? So I'm ad-libbing here. So, but let's pretend with the fear example again. If you hear a boom and it's actually you see something that potentially may go into a flame and a fire may ensue, what is your response? Get away as fast as you can. Use your flight, not the freeze, and stay put, right? Get away because there is imminently dangerous situation there. So those that adrenaline will match what the triggering agent is, and it is all good right there. What is also important to know that we just don't have those four basic emotions, right? We have a gamut of them, but it's also important to understand as such that our emotional response based on the triggering and this is really important, the triggering agent, right? So we need to understand what is triggering our emotional response will trigger again the brain, our organ, the brain, to secrete enkephalins, and I'm not sure if I'm, I'm pronouncing this right, which is that naturally occurring compound in our brain that actually has a pain-killing effect, right? So pretend for a minute you fall and you break a leg, and it's just the pain is so huge, but boom, you have that compound to let you just survive the pain that is so big for you. And endorphins, which is the hormone, a series of hormones created by your brain and your nervous system. And those two substances are secreted by your brain to match a response based on the stimulus. Important to note, those substances are immediate. You don't go like, I hear boom, okay, adrenaline, let's wait for you to kick in so that then I can decide if I need to fight or flight or freeze. No, it is quite instantaneous, and it all gets, your body gets all infused with those secretions. And depending on our mental state, think about it, we have to understand that the enzymes that are also produced in our bodies will have a positive or negative impact. So just to summarize, because it can be quite complicated for those of us who are not in the healthcare field, an event will trigger an emotion, which will trigger the release of a number of substances to our bloodstream: adrenaline, and enkephalin, endorphin, and enzymes, just to name a few. And those substances that get to our bloodstream quite fast may have a positive or negative impact depending on how we manage those emotions. So it goes all back to our emotion, how we handle those emotion response to external triggers. Can we talk about some examples about this very specific reaction in our body to those outside triggers? Uh, I mentioned you break, you have an injury, doesn't matter what it is. What happens? Quite simply, our circulatory system, and it's not a, yeah, maybe I will or maybe not, but our circulatory system will engage its self-repairing engine, and that engine gathers fibrins from the blood vessels, right, to form a clot. And the clot that is formed seals the wound, whatever that is, to prevent hemorrhaging and potentially preserving our lives. That's one example. Another example is it may happen with diseases, may be terminal or not. We're talking about a flu or cancer or heart disease. We have those mechanisms inside of us that will deal with whatever it's coming to our body. So Joanna reminds us in this chapter, and we're wrapping up here, that under the right command from our control center, our mind, our immune system can either gain strength, right, and produce cells that can isolate, attack, or even destroy other cells that may be sick in order to restore our own health. And the important thing for all of us to be reminded is that as we come to a closure of this time together, is that health is not about a number. It is not about, oh, I was healthy from 10 to 90 years old. It is Rather, Joanna tells us, rather, it's how we ensure our well being through our life and our objectives. So, this is a distortion of our notion of health, right? We keep thinking, I keep thinking, health is just being everything works, I don't have any pains, and I can live as long as I can. No, it is about being well throughout our lives, our choices, and our own objectives. And the other thing that she tells us here is that death, yes, death is inevitable. And as such, it may even be a blessing depending how much suffering you're going through. But what is critical here for us to understand regarding death is the importance of our behaviors, right? When this material body that is important, right? Is what's important is the behaviors while we are inhabiting this material body, not the body itself. So let's recap. Let us all understand the what's important is our behaviors, how we handle life itself, not the body itself. And finally, third and final point, Joanna tells us that the internal doctor is our own mind, the command center that regulates, repairs, or whatever is needed to this complex machine we call body. So let's be aware of our command center. Let's be aware of our mind and how it is intricately connected with our body, and also remember that our inner doctor should be guided by our thoughts, our decisions, and our strong connection with God through prayer. So when we do that, it will stimulate all the cells to properly fulfill their purpose, which is preserve our health. So with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your time and see you next week.